This is StoryRobot. Welcome to r/prorevenge. Our story of today is how we destroyed our teacher and principal. The beginning, it all started when I, a male from 25, was 12 years old. My grade 7 teacher, a male from 46 at the time, was infamous for being intimidating and, in my opinion, abusive to his students. He was the disciplinarian of the school. He was in charge of keeping track of detentions and announcing who will be sitting every Friday during assembly. We suspected at that time that the reason why he never got fired was either because his students were too scared to report him, or because of the fact that the principal was his brother-in-law. Reasons why I hated him: he was constantly making vaguely racist remarks, complaining about the new South Africa and constantly bringing up how his life was better during the apartheid regime. He's a white guy who was raised on a farm. I always felt like he had an issue with me as a person because I'm a practicing Muslim. He would make the class laugh at how funny Muslim women looked with their heads wrapped up. His jokes about Muslims missing out on eating bacon were endless. In fact, he one day purposely stood in front of my desk eating a cheese and bacon panini. He used to often rant about how the school is no longer a pure Christian institution as it once was back in the day. He would say these things and glance at either me, my twin sister, or the black students in the class who practiced their own African religions. When it was his birthday, my mom encouraged me to buy him a gift. I spent of my pocket money, which was already limited. My parents didn't believe in allowances, to buy him a big slab of chocolate and a long piece of Drawer's dried sausage. Throughout the day, he would get gifts from students in his class and others. He would get up from his desk to greet and thank them, and then shake their hand. I remember noticing this because I always found it weird when students shook hands with teachers because of how small our hands were compared to theirs. However, when I gave him my gift, all he did was look at me for like a second, look away and nod his head slightly. I remember being thankful for not offering my hand out for him to shake because I thought he might have ignored it in front of the entire class. To say I felt like beep is an understatement. The experience that made me hate him the most happened just before we wrote second or third term exams. I was walking with my friend David, a fake name, back from the tuck shop during interval. We took a shortcut between the English and Afrikaans kindergarten classes and saw a group of boys huddled together. One of them walked towards us and I saw that he had one of those camping multi-tools with the folding knife out, and instantly got a fright. He told us, "Give me your stuff before I cut your neck." And then started laughing and walked back to his friends. It was clearly a joke, but David looked close to tears and I had a very bad fright because of what he'd done. I told the guy, fake name Xander, that he's not allowed to have knives at school and that I'm going to tell my teacher. We walked straight to our teacher, and when we spoke to him, David burst into tears. We told him what happened and David was sobbing when he said he felt like he was going to die. Our teacher barely looked up from his computer while we were speaking, and when he asked for the guy his name, we told him the name and he said he will deal with it and for us to go out for interval again. I went home and told my mom, who I felt didn't fully believe me at the time. The next day we saw Xander were basically making fun of him for getting into trouble with our teacher and likely getting expelled at worst, or sitting a Saturday detention at best. He laughed back at us and said our teacher just came to his class, asked to speak to him and told him to never bring it to school again. No detention. No suspension. Basically nothing. He still had the knife on him for the rest of the day before. We were so upset we went back to our teacher and I told him that Xander said that he didn't get into trouble for having the knife. He gave me the ugliest look as if I was bothering him, and coldly said to me that maybe I should fix my late coming problem before I try to get other people in trouble. I would come late 4 or 5 times a month because my mom's car's battery terminals were broken, so the battery would run flat and she couldn't afford to have it fixed. She had to put the neighbor's battery in her car, start it, and then idle it while she took that battery out and put her own battery back in to charge up. My mom taught me the value of always having a number 10 spanner in your car lol. I felt betrayed by my teacher, the person who was supposed to make us feel safe while we were away from home. When I spoke to my friends about it, they told me that Xander was actually the principal's son, meaning he was my teacher's nephew. I decided to take the opportunity to speak to my friends about getting evidence that our teacher is treating students unfairly. 3 of my 4 close friends had camera phones. I sat in the far left corner, my one friend sat in the opposite corner by the door, our other friend sat in the middle, and the last friend was right at the back of the class by the window on the left. One thing about our teacher: he did not give a beep about where we sat as long as we answered him when he done roll call, and didn't bother anyone when we swapped seats. We came to an agreement that whenever our teacher would sound like we was going to say something vaguely racist or Islamophobic, we would all discreetly take videos of him. Any private conversation we had with him was voice recorded on our phones. We caught him on camera telling a really racist joke about black people, and saying that Hindus must have a lot of problems since they have so many gods. We caught him saying a lot of bad things, but a lot slipped through our fingers because we weren't fast enough. It was extremely difficult to keep our friend group motivated to record him and not tell anyone else about it. It was especially difficult because at the time I had a hand-me-down Samsung D900 which was seen as an expensive phone at the time. My mom prohibited me from taking it to school. She instead bought a cheap R79, $5 phone for us that could only make calls and send SMSs. This was in case she needed to reach us in an emergency. I got caught several times sneaking my camera phone to school. My biggest mess up at school was when my mom phoned me on my Samsung and I answered it. Big oof, but I was a dumbass. After I think a month we decided that we couldn't let it go any further. One of our friends was a black guy named Tatenda, fake name. Tatenda was a problem child. His mom died when he was 4 and his dad was an alcoholic. He was raised mostly by his uncle who up until today I think was a pimp. He used to act out at school because of undiagnosed ADHD. His dad and uncle didn't believe in learning disabilities and always assumed he was just lazy and badly behaved. Tatenda especially got onto our teacher's nerves because not only was he black, but because he would bring broken calculators from home and take them apart during class. One day our teacher told him to clear his desk and throw away the bits of plastic and calculator beep. He ignored the teacher. The teacher then started screaming at him, and Tatenda done the only logical thing an 12-13-year-old would do in such a situation. He mockingly put 2 pencils into his ears. Our teacher lost his beep, grabbed Tatenda and threw him against the door. The narrow window pane cracked and Tatenda his head was bleeding. He told us he was fine during interval afterwards and we put money together to buy him a Sprite. I almost cried when my friend who sat way behind me said he got the whole thing on camera. We didn't even trust that the whole class testimony would get him into trouble. We decided that enough was enough. The revenge. First we showed the video to Tatenda his uncle, who showed it to his father. Then I showed my mom all the other videos and recordings. She lost her mind. One of my friends sent all of it to his older sister who had a Facebook account and she posted it there and tagged the school and as many parents as she knew. It blew up. Parents and people from around the province phoned the school demanding answers as to what is going to happen to our teacher. He was immediately suspended. There were rumors circulating that he had to go into hiding because Tatenda his uncle and his friends were looking to kill him. I even met Tatenda his dad for the first time in the weeks after the whole thing exploded. He liked to joke that his dad sobered up especially for this law. The principal pulled Xander out of the school. We never saw him again. My mom told me an investigation was launched against the school because of the improper handling of bullying complaints. If I remember correctly, 3 English kids in my class alone spoke out against teachers dismissing their complaints of bullying by the Afrikaans kids. We were a mostly white, Afrikaans-speaking school with 3 Afrikaans classes but only 1 English class per grade. They called us Soeties, which was short for soetpeel, which literally translates as salty beep. It's a derogatory term for English-speaking, white South Africans. It means your one leg in is South Africa, your other leg is in England, so your beep is hanging in the ocean. We only saw our teacher once after he was suspended. He looked badly beaten up, and was accompanied by a policeman and 2 other male teachers so he could gather the rest of his stuff from his class. But it didn't end there. Because so many kids needed the evidence that they were being bullied and nothing was done because of it, the CCTV footage was brought up. My friend's mother, who was part of the school governing body that time, told us a few years ago that when they reviewed the footage, it became apparent that the principal was having an affair with one of the grade 2 teachers. He could be seen grabbing her beep at the furthest point away from the camera. They slipped up a few times and kissed in clear view of the camera, but I guess once you're surrounded by the cameras every day at work, you forget that they're there. It was very apparent that sometimes they thought they couldn't be seen. My mom's friend's sister, basically my aunt, sells Tupperware and one of her regular customers and close friends is the principal's ex-wife. Not only did she leave him, but they were not married in community of property due to a prenup agreement. The house they lived in was in her name since before marriage, so she effectively made him homeless because none of his family wanted to take him in. He ran into severe debt from staying in guest houses and burned many bridges from overstaying his welcome at friends. As for my teacher, his reputation was destination beeped. He served jail time, don't know how long, and eventually left the country because it seemed everyone knew his face from the media attention he received. Now listen what I experienced at the beginning of this year. My family is part of a non-profit organization that has feeding schemes all over the country. The last Friday feed of February, I'm standing security as I usually do since we're few volunteers and there's many homeless people and most are on drugs and can get violent. I'm walking down the line to make sure there are no fights or anything that could start a riot, and I see a familiar face. My old principal is standing in the line, waiting for a bowl of stew and bread, with absolutely no idea who is standing beside him. Obviously he wouldn't have recognized me, but I never forgot his face. I'm not going to lie, I cried quite a bit behind my sunglasses. Seeing him brought back the feelings I had when I was 12 years old in 7th grade, trying absolutely every excuse in the book to not have to go to school and be bullied by my teacher. Thank you for watching. Error. Problem detected. Not enough subscribers. Please subscribe, like and comment.